Welcome to Inside PTI. Thanks for joining us on this episode. Today our topic is high-speed planting in soybeans. Why would I want to consider planting soybeans fast? Well, it's really to get done in the ideal conditions, and we'll talk about that. Before we get too far in this high-speed episode, if you haven't watched the previous episode that talks about soybean planting date, I would go ahead and click the link here in this video to check out the soybean planting date video, because these two really go hand in hand. High-speed planting, if we're going to plant at faster speeds, we need to make sure that nothing else on the planter goes backwards. So our population accuracy, singulation of those beans, or our emergence ability goes backwards. And so getting those things right and then speeding up and having a delivery system allows us to plant more acres per day, more acres per hour, and maximize our planting window. So we planted in 2020, we planted soybeans from 4 to 12 miles per hour. So a little bit of drop off at 12 miles per hour. So probably wouldn't advise that speed. And 12 mile an hour is booking it. But from that 4 to 10, the difference we saw was about a bushel. So negligible, really not statistically significant difference in these speeds here. So what that proves is that we can, with a properly equipped planter, we can plant whatever speed we need to cover the acres per hour and acres per day we need to hit our planting window. And the speed at which we plant will not impact our yield negatively. So let's talk about the device that allows us to speed up and maintain spacing accuracy. It's called SpeedTube. Most planting seasons, we have weather challenges that make it difficult to plant all of our fields in ideal conditions. SpeedTube is a seed delivery system that allows you to double your planting speed without sacrificing performance. You'll have a sense of accomplishment when the rains come and your planter is already back in the shed and you've got all your acres in. On the previous episode, we talked about planting date. And so planting date with beans and high speed really go hand in hand. So previous episode, we saw that in 3-year data, we saw, I think it was about a 16.3 bushel advantage from the first window of the end of March or early April in Pontiac, Illinois. A 16.3 bushel advantage planting in that window compared to late April into early May. We want to plant earlier is what data is showing. And then we want to plant as many of the acres early as we can to maximize yield. That's what our data shows. So if we can combine early planted beans with higher speed planting to get more acres planted in that early window, and that 16.3 bushels, that's nothing to shake a stick at. That's significant. So let's look at some ROI here. If we have a 24-row planter and we already have, say, some precision planting components on there like V-Drive, a 2020, and we want to add SpeedTube to be able to speed up and maintain accuracy, SpeedTube is going to cost around $24,000 plus the installation cost of your dealer to put that on your planter. Now, let's say you plant 1,000 acres of soybeans with that planter, and typically you plant 500 at your traditional speed, 500 in early April in Pontiac, Illinois, where our study is done, and the other 500 you don't get planted until the last week of April. You get rained out in between there. So 500 early in that first window we talked about last episode, 500 later in that next window. So you'd have optimum yields with 500 acres, and then you lose 16.3 bushel per acre on another 500. So that would be over $79,000 lost on the 500 acres planted in that second window. That could be regained if that all could be planted, though entire 1,000 acres could be planted in the first window. So in that case, adding SpeedTube to your already precision planting equipped planter would pay for itself 3.3 times in that year. Now, what if you're sitting here and you're saying, well, I don't have any precision planting equipment on my planter. It sounds like I need a few things before I can add SpeedTube. And that's true. SpeedTube fits with a few other components. If you have nothing on your 24-row bean planter from precision planting and you're interested in high speed, to get the gear that you would need to plant high-speed beans, to go from nothing to be able to plant high speed, you would more than pay for that entire system with that $79,000 of increased revenue from shifting the 500 acres typically planted in the later window to the earlier window. So the complete setup could be paid for, plus you'd have some additional profit in year one. So today's Inside PTI tip is that planting soybeans early has paid dividends. You've seen that, 16.3 bushels on average over the last 3 years. And doing so with a planter that can plant soybeans accurately at higher speeds has shown no impactful yield loss from the speed of planting. So you say, I can plant the speed I need to hit the early planting date, combine those two things together. That's where significant profitability increases have come from at the PTI farm in our trials. in the last 3 years in soybeans. If you have questions about this study, please email us at InsidePTI@precisionplanting.com. If you have questions about SpeedTube or any of the products in your local area, please reach out to a Precision Planting dealer. If you don't have a Precision Planting dealer and are interested in talking to one, you can visit the website planterexpert.com and you can find a dealer that's close to you and contact them. Thanks for spending time with us today. We're excited about the prospects of driving bean yields higher, high-speed planting, and early planting, and we'll see you on the next episode.